Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Om Tat Sat. Manashiksha, verse 6, and also verse 7. We're going to try to do both today. Hare Cheta Protyat Kapata Kutinati Bharakara Ksharan Mutre Snatva Darasikatamatmanam Abhimam Sada Tvam Gandharva Giridharapata Prema Vilasat Siddham Bodhau Snatva Tamapinitaramam Chasukaya. Oh, actually, I'm looking at a different translation here anyway. Oh mind, why are you bathing in the cosmic urine of the great donkey of full-blown deceit and hypocrisy? By doing so, you are burning both you and me. Instead, you should constantly bathe in the ambrosial ocean of prema, emanating from the feet of Gandharva Giridhari, which will thoroughly delight both of us. So in verse 4, we heard about the external obstacles to bhajan, beginning with asat kata, or kata about mukti, and mukti kata, and even kata about other forms of the Godhead aside from Bhajanjananda and Krishna. These form obstacles to Rag Bhajan, external obstacles. Then there are the eternal obstacles to Rag Bhajan: lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, delusion. These 6 are the internal enemies of bhajan. And we heard to get rid of these obstacles, we need to take shelter of the sadhus. Sadhu Sangha can eradicate the internal obstacles. Now that the internal obstacles in the form of lust and etc. are no longer obstructing one's bhajan with the wicked deeds, being tied by the neck by the rope of wicked deeds. So if you're engaged in material activity, you're not engaged in bhajan. So that's the sense there. But now that your bhajan is unobstructed by the ropes of wicked deeds, now what you will do? Now that you don't have that obstacle, now you can apratiyata without interruption. You can start to really build and mold your inner world so that it is congruent with that world that you want to attain. So in Rag Bhajan, we want to attain the world of Brijbasis. So we need to mold our psychic world in such a way that it is congruent with that domain. Sadata bhava bhavita. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam te ajante kalevaram tam tami vaitukunteya sadata bhava bhavita. Whatever bhavam that you remember at the time of quitting the body, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the next state you will attain without fail because of always being absorbed in that bhava. Sadata bhava bhavita. So because of always being immersed, sada bhavita and tat bhava, in that bhava, then you'll attain that realm, which is congruent, or you can in some way say the external manifestation of that bhava. It becomes possible. And now that you're unobstructed by the internal enemies because you did nice sadhu sangha, you had some sadhu or sadhus that you could cry out to, and they help relieve you of that obstacle. Now, in an uninterrupted way, you're able to build your psychic world in such a way that it is congruent with that realm. So that is the significance here of the word snatva. So the word snatva is used twice here. The word snatva means to bathe. So the idea of a bath is a total immersion, right? When you take bath, you're completely immersing the body in the water. So if you're taking, if we're bathing in something, that means to be totally immersed in something. And here, there's 2 types of baths being described. Akshara mutre snatva darasikatam atmanam apima. And another type of bath is also being described. Siddham bodho snatva tamapinitara mam jasukaya. So one type of bath gives burning sensation. Darasikatam atmana apima. It is burning you, the mind, and it is also burning me, the soul. Because this is the soul speaking to the mind, right? So one type of bath is burning the mind and the soul. And another type of bath is enlivening the mind and the soul. So two types of bath that bring this. Now you're uninterrupted by the internal obstacles. You are free to immerse yourself in whatever you want. So take bath. And one type of bath gives burning sensation to the mind and soul. Another type of bath gives happiness to the mind and soul. So it should be a no-brainer which bath we should take. So still, somehow or other, there's a more subtle obstacle that prevents us from taking this bath, immersing ourselves in this bath. And what is that obstacle? Are cheta prodya kapata kutinati bharakara ksaramutre snatva. We're bathing in fully blown kapata kutinati. So kapata means duplicity, and kutinati means deceit, politics, even violence towards other living entities is also included in kutinati. Proda means fully blown deceit and hypocrisy. This is compared to bharakara ksaramutre. It's compared to the urine of a donkey. So you're bathing in the donkey urine of full-blown deceit and hypocrisy. And that bath is darasikatam atmana apima. It is burning you, the mind, and I'm also getting burned because I'm connected to you in this life until liberation. So now we are both being burned by bathing in the donkey urine of full-blown deceit and kutinati, diplomacy and hypocrisy and so on. So deceit, this seems to be an obstacle that attacks the sadhaka, even after he is relatively free from the internal obstacles of lust, etc. And this obstacle is duplicity. So duplicity, in short, is that there is the inner and the outer life of the sadhaka lacks cohesion. The outer life and the inner life, there's some schism between the two. So this is basically what is meant by duplicity. So outside, we are showing ourselves as a devotee, basically, essentially. But inside, the substance of what it means to be a devotee, that is not there. So the substance of being a devotee is what? To think of Krishna. That is the substance of being a devotee. Inside, we're thinking of Krishna. Krishna smaranjanam chasha preshna nijasamitam. This is the inner substance of a devotee. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu, vismartavyo najatuchit. Always remembering Krishna, never forget him. Mamanda bhava ma bhakto, mam yajimana maskuru. Make your mind think of me. This is what it means. It's the substance of a devotee, the inner substance. And the outer substance should follow that inner substance. But if we show ourselves outside as devotee, but inside there is no Krishna bhavana. Krishna bhavana means the contemplation or the meditation on Krishna. There's no Krishna bhavana inside. But this is at the heart of what it means to be duplicitous. And this, it seems that this tendency can be seen in sadhakas when we desire to emphasize. Oops. Okay, I have to. Oopsies. Sorry. It seems this issue comes up for sadhakas whenever we this issue is made manifest. Sorry, I had to charge this thing up. When sadhakas emphasize something that is not the actual goal of their sadhana. So what is the goal of sadhana? Kriti sadhya bhava sadhya bhava sa sadhana vida. Kriti sadhya means the emulation of the sadhya. The sadhya means bhav bhakti. What type of bhav bhakti? Well, dasya bhav is there, vatsalya bhav, sakya bhav, madhurya bhav. There's some bhava that is desired by the devotee. Sada tat bhava bhavita, right? Some bhava that is desired by the devotee. And his whole sadhana is motivated by the desire for getting that bhava. Kriti sadha bhavat sadha bhava sasadhana bida. Sadhana bhakti, by definition, is emulation of the sadhya with your psychic and sensual apparatus. That is the meaning of kriti, sadhya. Emulation of the sadhya with your psychic and mental apparatus for the purpose of receiving the gift of that bhava. Sadhya bhava sasadhana bida. So the idea here is that until that bhava that you desire is manifest in your mental quantum, until that is achieved, then you have not achieved the goal of your sadhana. Then your sadhana must go on. There is some investigation to continue up until that point. Certainly must investigate the truth up until this point, up to the experience of the descent of Bhav Bhakti. How are you to investigate that? Tattva Jignasunatmana. You go to Gurudev and ask, hey, the bhava is not coming. How do I get this bhava? This is the meaning here. Tattva Jignasunatmana. And until that bhava manifests, then you've not achieved the goal. There's much for us to learn, much for us to know. I say this in light of, for example, many these days there's so much, not so much, I wouldn't say more than normal, but devotees are arguing about so many things about what, for example, is bhakti inherent or not, is jiva fall or not. There are many things devotees fight about, which is all fine and dandy. And devotees, we may pride ourselves on having the right siddhanta on the issue. As I've seen many devotees, we're very happy that we have properly understood the philosophy. I have the right siddhanta, the other ones that don't have the right, they don't have the right, this thing is going on. So that is okay. So now you have right siddhanta, that is all right. We don't mind. So, but the real questions come is, do you have bhav bhakti? Or the way that I've been phrasing it to my friends when I talk about this issue with them is that, have you seen God? Because you can only see God when you have love. Those without love, they don't see God. Those who have love, they see God. So you have to find God in love. You can't find God anywhere else. So I've been asking this question to my friend, have you seen God? Or in other words, have you attained bhav bhakti? Because only there God can be found. It can only be found inside that love. So if you have not attained that love, then that means your siddhanta or your sambandha jnana is not complete. You understand? Sambandha jnana, who's got control of this thing? You can mute the computers. Be attentive to that. Whoever has control. I don't have the control. I'm not a host. So, sambandha jnana. And we often talk about sambandha jnana, tattva, right? So we say, God is the source of everything. He has internal energy, external energy, tatasha shakti. This is a relationship of the energies to each other. And now we have proper sambandha jnana. Yes, that is okay. But the sambandha jnana is not complete until you actually have darshan of that reality in the inner quantum of consciousness, which is not possible unless you have bhav bhakti or love. Only there God can be found. Only there sambandha is complete. So until we have attained that, then our work of investigation is not yet done. So we cannot pride ourselves on having right siddhanta even. I have the right siddhanta. Okay, you have the right siddhanta. Have you seen God then? By your right siddhanta you have seen? And if the answer is no, then there's something more for you to do. There is something more for you to accomplish. There's something more for you to attain. You may have the right formulas, the right rituals. You're doing, not only do you have the right rituals, but you perform them correctly. You have the right siddhanta and all that. For that, we will offer our pranams to you also. Dikshekti chat pranatabisha bhajantam isha. You're doing bhajan of the isha, and you've taken diksha, you worship nicely, you do it right. We will offer our pranams to you as Rupa Goswami has advised us to do. But he has not advised us to surrender to such a devotee. He says you just offer pranams to such a devotee. But shushushayo, bhajna viknam ananya anya nindadishu niriti ipsita sangalapta. But that devotee who is to be surrendered to is one who is bhajana vigna. He is expert in bhajana because he is seeing that reality. His sambandha is fully developed to the point of actual experience of the reality. Shabdapare Chanishnatam. He's bathing in Shabda Brahman and he is also bathing in Pada Brahman. Shabdapare Nishnatam. Shabda Nishnatam, Pare Nishnatam. These are the two forms of Brahman. Sonic Brahman and Pada Brahman, two forms. So he's fully bathed in that. He has experience of that. And the symptom of that experience for Rupa Goswami is that his heart is completely cleansed of ninda, etc. His heart is completely devoid of the desire to defame or blasphemy and the other sort of aggressive things that come with defamation. He says, so that type of Vaishnava we are to surrender to. So you may know proper Siddhanta, you have right rituals, you also perform them rightly. But anything short of Bhav Bhakti in the experience of God in that sacred space of love, Bhava, is short of the goal. So when if we start to emphasize those easier accomplishments, right? Actually learning Siddhanta is a lot easier than realizing the Siddhanta. Learning is a lot easier than realizing it. Learning the proper rituals is a lot easier than the attainment of love of God. So when we emphasize those easier to attain accomplishments over the actual goal, so this will lead to a type of duplicity. This is what actually causes duplicity in the devotees. So you see this one comes up a lot. And there seems to be an obstacle that affects a lot of sadhakas bhajan. So Rupa Goswami Raghunath Das Goswami is putting it here. Even after conquering over the obstacles that usually keep us preoccupied with material activities, through sadhu sangha, we've conquered that, not by our own strength, but by their mercy. And now we have the choice to bathe ourselves in that inner cultivation that is congruent with that realm which we are trying to attain. Still, we're bathing ourselves in the donkey urine of full-blown deceit and hypocrisy, duplicity. That's what we're describing here. So what is it, duplicity? It's a schism between outside and inside. So outside is showing one thing, inside another thing. So inside, we want Bhav Bhakti. If you don't have Bhav Bhakti, that is your North Star. That is your actual goal in life. Not because we were told it is our goal, but because that is your goal in life. Now that someone asks, what is the goal in life? You say Christian Prema, because that is a textbook answer. No, you have identified your specific goal in life. Dasya Bhav, Sakya Bhav, Vatsalya Bhav, Madhurya Bhav. You identified your goal in life. And everything that you do in life is for helping you to attain that goal. At least that much should be there. And everything you do outside is meant to help attain that goal. So that is non-duplicitous. There's a harmony or a cohesion between inside and outside. And that is very nice. But when you see that the Bhav Bhakti is not so easy to attain, right? Rupa Goswami has called it a sudurlabha. So it is very rare or difficult to attain. Sudurlabha. Very difficult to attain. Why is that? Because first of all, you need a sakti. You should progress in sadhana to a sakti. And even after a sakti, unless the sakti becomes very deep, then Krishna not agreeable to give the bhav bhakti, because by bhav you can control them. So if one becomes a little bit impatient and doing their sadhana bhajan, Rupa Goswami advises utsaha nishaya dharya. So dharya means the patience. If one becomes a little bit impatient, then there's maybe a tendency to emphasize external accomplishments over the internal substance, because it's just a lot easier. So, and how this comes up in Vaishnava circles, and why Raghunath Goswami is saying prodya kapata kutinati. Fully blown kutinati. Fully blown, it seems to me, fully blown here means that it's seen, it's visible. Kutinati. So kutinati means like doing harm to others, defamation and doing harm to others. So you see this happen in Vaishnava Sanghas, that they emphasize how well you are following the externals. For regular principles, check. You trust like a devotee, check. You fast on the Kaddish, check. All these things, do you know the philosophy or sit down to properly check? All these things that are a lot easier to obtain than the actual Bhava Bhakti become esteemed in the community. Of course, because it is believed that by the strength of that following, that maybe the goal will come. That is a general belief is there. But the subtle thing that's taking place is that I don't have Bhava Bhakti, and the other person that I would ridicule, they also don't have Bhava Bhakti. But I am properly following, they are not properly following. And so we want to esteem that so that we have a sense of our accomplishment, a sense of standing in this world. We've left the world of matter to pursue Krishna. And we want some standing in the world of spirit. We don't want to feel like a riven cloud. I left matter to do spirit, but I have no standing in the material world because I'm not, successful there. And I also don't have any standing in the spiritual world because I don't feel successful there. So not having any standing any place, I feel like a riven cloud, I'll be finished. So we don't want that experience. So as a result of not wanting that experience, we may tend to emphasize the external things, even though the application of the externals is not exactly congruent with what's happening internally. So we bathe ourselves in this way in the full-blown donkey urine of duplicity and deceit. So this is one issue that comes up for sadhakas. Even after conquering over less, so this is considered a more subtle obstacle than even less anger and greed, which were called the internal obstacles previously. This is considered even more subtle than that. And you can see it rise up in devotional sanghas. Oh, they don't follow this way, they don't do this thing, they don't do that thing. So that may be true also, I don't do. But I have a question for you. Do you have Bhava Bhakti also? Are you experiencing God in that place of Bhava Bhakti? So you also don't have Bhava Bhakti. I also don't have Bhava Bhakti, but I am nicely situated. So because of that feeling, I am nicely situated, I'm doing this and another. So then you feel emboldened to do kutinati, to become aggressive, to find fault with other Vaishnavas. So this becomes a type of what here is being described as duplicity. The duplicity is a schism between inside and outside. That is a duplicity. And there's what follows that schism, it may be also a sense of, as I'm saying, a lack of standing. Neither I'm standing in spirit, neither I'm standing in matter. So to offset the feelings of demoralization that comes from feeling that you have no standing in any spirit, then you may engage in kapata, and that is going on, and kutinati. So kutinati means hate, basically. Kutinati, deceit, diplomacy, violence, defamation, all these things will be concluded under kutinati. So you absorb yourself in that because you don't have any standing in Bhava Bhakti yet. So here we're being advised, don't take that sort of bath. There's another bath that is better for us. So what bath is that? We should bathe in the kata of Radha and Krishna. Sada tvam gandharva giridhara pada prema vilasa sadam hodos natva. So bathe ourselves in the ocean of prema of the feet of Gandharva Giridhari. And that way, tamapinitara mancha sugaya. And that way, give happiness to yourself and also to me. So bathe yourself in prema. How you can bathe yourself in prema? So here in Thakur Bhaktivinoda's commentary, he shares many verses of meditation on Radha Krishna, on Gandharva Giridhari. So the sense that I got from the commentary is that, again, the schism is between inside and outside. The inner world is not matching the realm that we want to attain. So we have to bathe our minds in that, which will cause the mind to take the shape that is congruent with the world that we want to attain. As we've been mentioning from the outset of this discussion, that these verses in some sense are instructive for those who have embraced the essence of all advice in Upadeshamrita. And the essence of all advice is that the mind should do Anusmriti and the tongue should do Sukirtan, right? Tam nama rupa charitadi Sukirtana Anusmrito kramena rasana manasi niyojana. Tishnam braje ta anurag vijananugami. living in Braj, following after the Ta Anuragi Jana, Ragatmika Bhaktas, or the Raganuga devotees who are in pursuance of those bhavas. Then our minds remain engaged in Anushmriti and Vitang and Sukirtan. So this is that is the other option. You bathe in the meditation, Anushmriti, on Radha Krishna, on that form of divinity that is the goal of your very life. You allow your mind to be bathed in that. And that way it gets some standing in spirituality. And the spirituality that is congruent with your desired goal. And if you do that, experience the prema of that bath, and then so experiencing, give happiness to the mind and give happiness to the soul. So there are two options. If we don't choose to bathe, now we're not obstructed by the internal obstacles because we did good sadhu sangha. We cried out for help at the right moment. Now, in some sense, we've arrived at ground zero. So now ground zero is a place where you can really build your inner world as you like. And it's not that the inner world is going to build itself. You have to build it. You have to take up the responsibility. So that part is a little scary. That's why devotees prefer the automatic idea. Just chant automatically will come. No, you have to take more responsibility for building your inner world. Now you've arrived at ground zero. You're not obstructed by the internal enemies. So now how do you want to embrace those positive integers? Before we were in negative integer mode. -1, 2, 3, 4, -10, maybe worse. But we did good sadhu sangha. We arrived at ground zero. Now, having arrived at ground zero, you can build your inner world as you like. So building your inner world as you like means bathing in the ocean of Gandharva Giridhari Katha and Gandharva Giridhari Kirtan. Allowing your mind to contemplate that, allowing your tongue to sing that Sukirtan for the tongue, Anushmriti for the mind. You do bathe like that, the mind will be happy, the soul will be happy. You will attain prema in this way on the path of Rag Bhajan. But if instead of doing that, you've arrived at ground zero, you've become impatient, the Bhav Bhakti is not coming so easy. Maybe you're afraid of the responsibility of what it takes to build your inner world. As Prabhupada writes in the Vidaraga Bhaya Krodha Mamaya Mahapashita, I always quote this verse now, these days, in relationship to these ideas, that we are afraid to be persons, the responsibility it would take to be a person, to build the inner world in that particular way. Then you will do kutinati and kapata. That means there will be some schism between inside and outside. And you'll do kutinati. You'll bathe in that also. Finding the faults. Maybe the archetype for this is Ramchandra Puri. So Ramchandra Puri, outside, he was Mahaprabhu's, he was the godbrother of Mahaprabhu's guru. Outside, he was also sannyasi, but he could not give up kutinati. He was simply just bathed in criticizing devotees. He would do things in such a way that he will allow himself to see fault in devotees. For example, he will invite them for lunch, feed them nicely. They said, we've had enough. He said, no, you should eat more. You should eat more. Then they would eat more. Then he would criticize, why are you eating? You're sannyasis. Why are you eating so much? And he did this to Mahaprabhu also. He came to one space where Mahaprabhu was at. And he, was this the same? Yeah, I think it's the same story. One place where Mahaprabhu, and then he said, oh, there are ants here. So if you live in India, there are ants everywhere. That is unavoidable. But he said, oh, there's so many ants here. That's because Mahaprabhu was eating sugar. He's a sannyasi. He should not be eating sweets. He was eating the sugar. There's so many ants. He engaged in kutinati and criticized Mahaprabhu himself. So this will happen when you don't get any standing in your mind and your tongue for the topics of Krishna Katha. If we don't embrace that responsibility, then we will be lost in this way. So now why this is happening, so that is the next verse. Why do we engage in this kapata and this kutinati? What is the reason for that? So that is mentioned according to Thakur Bhakti, we know, that is mentioned in the next verse, why this happens. So let's look at the next verse also briefly. He says here, Pratishtasha drishta shapacharamani meredinata. Katam sadhu prema speshatishu chir etananumana. Sadatvam se vaswa prabudayita samantmatulam. Yatatam nishkashya tarita mihatam vishayatisa. O mind, how can the highest and purest prema ever touch my heart while the desire for prestige dances there like a shameless dog, eating outcast woman? You must constantly serve those unparalleled generals of the army of the Lord who are most dear to him. They can quickly expel the woman and allow prema to enter the heart. So pratishta asha, the desire for pratishta. So the word pratishta means the desire for distinction, fame. You want to stick out in some special way. This is called pratishta. So the desire for pratishta. So this desire for pratishta is considered as the reason why kapata and putinati takes place. So this is an interesting insight of Thakur Bhaktivinoda, connecting verse 6 and 7. Why sadhakas do kapata and kutinati is because of pratishtasha, because of the desire for pratishta. So this is why we said the goal of the sadhaka is bhav bhakti. So anything short of bhav is to not have accomplished the goal yet. But bhav bhakti is for durlabha, very hard to attain and very rare to attain. Very difficult and very rare that anyone is accomplished in that. So there can be a sense of unaccomplishment as a sadhaka. You join the Krishna consciousness movement, you've left material rat race, so you don't mind being considered more or less unsuccessful in the material sphere. You don't have a career, this, that, and the other. You don't mind that. But you can do spiritual life, hoping you will get success there, but you also are not very special in this field either. So in both domains, you are a loser only. Big O L. You're a loser in both fields. You're a loser in the material field, you're a loser in the spiritual field. And there's this desire for tishtasha, there's a desire for distinction. So even these souls, they may give up everything. They may renounce the whole world. So all of our commentators, they especially point to various renunciates even. They renounce the whole world, but they could not renounce the desire for pratishta, desire for being distinct. Oh, I know Shastra so nicely. I renounce so nicely. I follow so many nice standards, etc., etc. So many nice standards means so many external standards they are accomplished in that area. And there's a desire to esteem those external accomplishments above the actual attainment of bhav bhakti. Now, no one's going to do that on a conscious level. So this means these are very subtle sort of things that take place on the path of Rag Bhajan. So one thinks that because I've accomplished this, that, and the other externally, that I'm nicely situated. And that way, that can offset the discomfort and or feeling of demoralization that comes from not really having any standing spiritually. You don't really have the bhav bhakti. Forget bhav bhakti. There's no asakti also. There's no ruchi also. There's no nishta also. Just like sometimes we may speaking so nicely, talking big game, someone will ask us, do you have nishta? Do you have ruchi for the name? Why are you sleeping in japa session, sleeping when Bhagavatam class happened? Why is sleeping happening? So you have no ruchi, you have no asakti, what to speak of bhava, what to speak of prema. So where is your standing in spirituality? So that pinches the soul. Pratishtasha, that soul has a desire for distinction. This is going to be that pinches. That feeling of demoralization will cause us to do kapata and kutinati. So our Acharya, Thakur Bhaktivinoda, has connected these two verses in this way. Why the soul will bathe in kutinati? That kutinati and kapata, that is burning the mind and is burning the soul. In other words, we're not happy in that space. Still, he's immersed in that space. Why is he immersed in this? Because of pratishta. The desire for pratishta, the desire to just stick out. All of us can't be like Maha preachers in the Hare Krishna movement where we stick out in some special way. We've done some special services, that and other. They will have their own obstacles to deal with. But this is talking about another type. We have a desire for pratishta, and we don't get it, then kutinati, kapata takes place. Or you have desire for pratishta and you do get it, then also you do kutinati. You think, well, how come these devotees are so lazy? They don't have this, they don't have that, they have not accomplished this, accomplished that. Again, in reference to the external things. So this pratishtha is considered the root of all anarthas. All the acharyas have quoted the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Some quote there which mentions that pratishtha, this is the root of all anarthas. So pratishtashta drishta shapachara mani me dinata. So this pratishtha is compared to a shameless dog-eating woman. Why shameless? Drishta. I think drishta here means shameless. Why is this dog-eating lady shameless? Because she never admits her own fault. So this is one of the obstacles of pratishtha. Especially having heard in like a class like this how terrible pratishtha is. Then pratishtha is such a thing that it will never admit its own fault. So no one will ever say it's because I have desire to stand out distinctly. We'll deny that within ourselves even. We said, no, I'm saying this not because I care about sticking out or anything. It is not for that reason. I'm saying it because it is true. When we make some criticism, it is said of Raghunath Das Goswami that he didn't want to hear the criticism of any Vaishnava, even when the statements that were being told to him were in fact true. He didn't want to hear it. Maybe this is a sense of it because people often tell about the faults of others because of pratishtha, desire for distinction. So at least I can say I'm better than this fellow. At least that much I can say. So in that way, due to desire pratishtha, they do kutinati. So it's drishta. Drishta means shameless because this pratishtha won't admit its fault. Therefore, shapachara mani me hridinata. This dog-eating woman is dancing in my heart. Also, she has husband. So one of our commentators mentioned this. This dog-eating woman, she has one husband. Her husband's name is Matsarya. Matsarya means envy. The Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us in the very outset, Dharma projita kaitava traparamon nirmatsaranam satam. Nirmatsaranam satam. Nirmatsarya means without envy. This Srimad Bhagavatam is propagating the Parama Dharma. It completely rejects Kaitava Dharma. And this Dharma can be understood only by those who are without envy, Nirmatsarya, because they are Satan. Satan means they're situated in authentic self-standing. So they know, what is the difference between matter and spirit. So they can see the underlying value of everything. Matsarya, envy means the inability to appreciate the real value of an entity. So the reason that happens is because you can't see the underlying value of life, which is consciousness. And all consciousness is valuable because it is the Tatasha Shakti of the Lord. So those who are Satan, they can see that consciousness behind Prakriti. And therefore they honor that inherent value of all life because of its connection with God as Tatasha Shakti, or even as a Maya Shakti, as it were. So they have no envy, Nirmatsarya. But if you have pratishtha, then her husband's name is Matsarya, envy, the inability to tolerate the greatness of others is envy. The inability to see their value, the inability to tolerate the greatness of others is called Matsarya. So when you have desire pratishtha, then this becomes very difficult for you. That's why you do kapata and kutinati. Suppose you feel yourself to be a nice speaker. Then someone says, oh, so-and-so speaks so nice. I've never heard any kata like that. Then immediately you'll feel envious because you have that desire for distinction that particular way. Or you have some other desire for distinction some other way, and someone else is acknowledged for that thing that you want to be distinguished for. You will find it intolerable. You'll burn inside. Suppose you're good at the kirtan, and someone else is doing nice kirtan, everyone's ecstatic, dancing, chanting. Then because of that, you'll feel burning inside, burning. And it says there that one of our commentators, he mentions that when the husband and wife, husband is Matsarya, wife is pratishtha, when they come together, they produce two children. Two children is Himsa and Anusuya. So Himsa is violence and Anusuya also means envy. But I think it means like defamation, desire to defame some person, which is basically indistinct from kutinati. So that's why these two verses 6 and 7 have been linked to each other. So pratishtha is it's a very wild thing, actually. It's a very hard thing to deal with also in the culture of spiritual life. Because in a sense, if you think about it in a very deep way, especially in the context of bhakti, the whole purpose of bhakti is to be established in an imperishable ego. Since we need an imperishable sense of identity that is intrinsically meaningful, valuable, not only meaningful for ourselves, but meaningful for the world around us. This is part of the culture of bhakti specifically. So you've left the material abhiman behind. Now you're pursuing the imperishable spiritual abhiman, but that also you don't get. And so the desire for standing in that world becomes important, and the result is that she dances in her heart, she invites her husband, they have children, then you do kapata kutinati, and your whole bhajan life is finished. So kata sadhu prema, special tishu chere tananumana, oh my mind, how can that sadhu prema touch such a heart that doesn't have purity? Because this lady is there with her husband and their nasty children. That sadhu prema will not come to such a heart. That's what he wants to say. So what is the solution? Sadatam sevaswa prabhudayita samanta matuna. You should render sevas to the atulam. Atulam, unparalleled, like unparalleled. Prabhudayita samanta, generals in the army of our Prabhu. Our Prabhu here is Krishna. So those who are dear to our Prabhu, those are the Vaishnavas, but they are the generals amongst those who are dear to our Prabhu. So the great Mahabhagavatas, or one of the commentaries, Sri Gurudev, you have to render great intimate service to them. Then yatatam nishkasha tvarita mihatam vesha yatisa. Then they can quickly expel that moment and allow prema into the heart. Our commentaries quote very nice verses from Srimad Bhagavatam about the power of sadhu sangha. So we can go on with some class discussion like that. It is already 9 o'clock. But basically, actually dispelling of the dog eating moment of pratishtha, that is a secondary effect from sadhu sangha. Main effect from sadhu sangha is you get prema bhakti. That is the effect of sadhu sangha. Satam prasangam avarya samvido bhavanti rekarna rasa ayana kata. Tajoshana asha apavarga vartamini shraddha bhakti ratir anukramishati. I put that in a little bit wrong order. Shraddha ratir bhakti anukramishati. In that order, anukramishati, in this order. What order? Shraddha, rati, bhakti, in this order. So Shraddha means sarana bhakti, rati means bhav bhakti, and bhakti in the verse means prem bhakti. In this order, the bhakti unfolds. How does that unfold? In the company of satam prasangam amavirya samvido, in the company of sadhu sangha. So you'll get this Shraddha, you'll get this bhava, you'll get this prem. That is the main effect of sadhu sangha. And the side effect is Ashu Apavarga Vartmani. Apavarga Vartmani means the path of liberation. So we can describe this unfolding of bhakti as the path of liberation. And in this context, we're mentioning as the side effect. You'll become liberated from all these subtle anarthas which constrict bhajan, like the desire for pratishtha, which is the root of all anarthas. This will come as a secondary effect of doing proper sadhu sangha. So the most valuable thing to have in this world is the association of sadhu. There's nothing more valuable than that. For that sadhu sangha, you should be prepared to uproot your entire life also. Tulayamalabe napi na swarga na punarbhavam. Bhagava sangi sangasya martyanam kemotashisha. Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the sages at Namisharanya telling. What are they telling? That even a moment's association with a person like you, Sutta Goswami. Same verse spoken by protectors to Lord Shiva. The same verse is spoken. Even a moment's association with a person like you, who is you? Bhagavad Sangi Sangasi. Someone who is captured to the Lord, someone who's attached to the Lord. Bhagavad Sangi, someone who's in love with the Lord. Even a moment's association with such a person cannot be compared to attainment of swarga, the full fruit of karma, or the attainment of liberation, the full fruit of Gyan. What to speak of the petty things in this material world, even heaven and liberation are insignificant in front of a moment's association with sadhu sangha. So such is the power of sadhu sangha that everything can be achieved. Our goal in life, which is prema, rati, that is achieved in sadhu sangha, and side effect, all these obstacles are overcome. So until devotees we take sadhu sangha seriously, then it may be the case that we will have a life of obstacles. That is a fact. We're going to end on a not sweet note, but you're supposed to eat on something sweet. But this is a fact, one that I've been meditating on a lot more these days. Until we are serious about this sadhu sangha point, then our life will be filled with all these things. Pratishta, puti nakti, kapata. How you will give up these things, the internal lust, envy, and so on, how they will be given up. Actually, our whole philosophy is that Maya cannot be dispelled except by the association of the internal energy. That is our whole philosophy. Even if you have Gyan, it doesn't matter. Gyan will not dispel Maya. That is the whole point of this verse. Bhayam dutiya biniveshata sha'ish. Ishare pe tashmi parayashpati ta Maya yato buddha apajatam ta bhaktya yesham guru devata. Whole purpose of this verse is to say this thing. It's telling the root cause is we're turning away from God. We've lost our own souls. We identify with bodies. We're absorbed in that. There's fear. Maya yato, this is Maya. All this together, this is Maya. And Buddha Abhajatam, if you are an intelligent person, Bhaktya Yesham, you will do exclusive devotion to the Lord. Guru Devatatma, which includes devotion to Guru, who is our very self and who is our worshipable deity. We consider him as such. So the idea is that without the association of the internal energy, avidya will not go away. That is a fact. So these are just effects of avidya. All these are narcissists we heard about. So we don't do sadhu sangha. If we don't catch sadhu sangha, then our problems not go. I was in Bhagavatam class yesterday, in the group community class. So the devotee decided to speak about neuroscience, which I was a little bit, kind of Bhagavatam class, neuroscience and their speculative ideas about brains. And he wanted us to analyze the brain of Kamsa so we can understand how these demons exist in us and how we might overcome them. I was, my first thought was like, what's wrong with just using Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun? That's a good enough explanation. Why we gotta go into neuroscience? You don't like the three modes of nature explanation? In any case, fine, whatever, neuroscience. We have reptilian brains and we have this other type of brain and we have another type of brain. Okay, fine. And he said, we understand this and we can get over the obstacles. No, you cannot get over the obstacles by understanding neuroscience. Many of the neuroscientists who have come out with these theories, they also have so many problems in their life. They're not free of the obstacles. They also have all the obstacles. So many devotees, we know these things. We also have so many obstacles. We also have this Bhagavad-gita. We also have so many obstacles. So without sadhu sangha, the obstacles will not go. Without the association of the internal energy, the obstacles will not go. That's what we want to say. And because sadhu sangha is the conduit of the internal energy flowing in this world, and without sadhu sangha, there is no removal of these obstacles. So in this way, if you find some good sadhu sangha somewhere, then you should be prepared to uproot your life for it also. Otherwise, what life will have anyway? Work hard and then we'll die. That is no life at all. So we should take opportunity. If we don't get now, that's okay, so we can wait. But if you find some place where you can live with sadhus nicely, then that is everything. So we'll stop here. Jaya, urine bath. Okay. Okay, so about surrendering to only those who have attained bhava. We do surrender in terms of hearing katha from several devotees who may not have attained bhava yet. So what does surrender here really mean? All the faults are seen only when we associate with devotees. So it feels safe to minimize interaction, but that also is not very conducive. How to remain aloof from sadhu ninda amidst sadhu? So I think there's two different questions. Okay. So the first is because Rupa Goswami says surrender. Shushu shaya bhajana viknam ananya anya nindadi shunya hrida ipsita sangalabdha. And so he says we should surrender and perform intimate seva to those who are bhajana vikna. So we may have many Shravan gurus that we hear from. That is okay. They're like Shravan gurus where we hear to learn the philosophy, tattva. But usually it's the bhajan shiksha guru is the one that we surrender to practically. It means they're the one who guiding the application of our bhajan in life. So surrender. In that verse, Rupa Goswami talking about surrender to that bhajan guru, bhajan Shiksha Guru. He's guiding our bhajan because he is bhajan Vigna. He's expert in bhajan. That's what we're trying to become, right? We want to become expert in service to Krishna. So under his guidance, only we can become expert. So surrender means rendering service to that devotee, bhajan Shiksha Guru, who will help us in executing our own bhajan. So we may hear from many Shravan gurus to help us understand philosophy, metaphysics, esoterics. There's no fault in that. But the bhajan Shiksha Guru is one to whom we practically surrender. They're guiding the application of our bhajan. So when you think about it in terms of, I was reading about Guru Tattva the other day for a few hours in the park. And I've been reading some stuff that's a little bit sobering. But when you think about the sort of responsibility that was there before, let me say it like this, the general culture of Guru-Disciple relationship was a lot more intimate. As you can imagine, because no technology, if you wanted to learn from a guru, you had to practically go to them and practically learn from them, living in the same space. And so a lot of the writings of our acharyas are written with that in mind, that people were living or approaching a person in real time and living with them, living around them. In many cases, there are exceptions to the rules, like Ramanujacharya. He was doing massive preaching all over South India. Probably had thousands and thousands and thousands of disciples. But the general culture was very intimate. And so when you see the writings of our acharyas about the guru-disciple relationship, it's very intimate. And the guru's practically showing you everything. How to do this, how to do that, how to worship the deity, how to chant the mantra, what are the meditations to you. It's a very practical, intimate relationship. And so I was thinking about when we bring it down to that practical level, then it kind of becomes more clear when you hear a statement like surrender. Because it becomes very practical at that point. I'm living with the person, they're showing me everything, I'm following what they say, X, Y, Z. And that sense it becomes very practical. Whereas Shravana Guru, you may be hearing from, learning so many things. But surrender has that more practical element. They're directing how I perform my bhajan, which is basically my life. I'm not doing other things except for to support my bhajan. So that's going to be my answer there. It's a little bit curt, but to the point. And all faults are seen only when we associate with devotees. It feels that way because we associate mostly with devotees. If you associate with only karmis, you will see their faults too, regularly. So it feels safe to minimize interaction, but that also is not very conducive. So how do we remain aloof from sadhu ninda and misadhus? So unless we take Mahaprabhu's instruction, amanena manadena, then there is no safe space. You understand? You're supposed to give respect to all others and not expect any for yourself, right? Amanena manadena. So without this instruction in the sadhaka, will be in trouble because he will do ninda. He will see, according to the material point of view, distrasa bhaiva janita vapushashta doshai, and he will do ninda. So we do have another option at hand. We could just be humble. That is the other instruction that comes from Mahaprabhu. So this is indispensable for the life of a sadhaka. Otherwise, how is possible? He cannot do a satsanga. That is also, asat sanga tyaga, a Vaishnava achar, right? So we can't do a satsanga. We are told to do satsanga only. So then this thing has to be there. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble. There's no other option, actually. So Krishna Arjuna Mankala said, what is sadhu sangha? That is also a big topic. It's a big topic insofar as it's a huge section in the Bhakti Sandarbha. What are sadhus and what is sadhu sangha? What is satsanga? There's a big section. But in short, sadhu sangha, how can we say? So sadhu is one who is doing anushmriti and sukirtan, keeping in theme of what we're hearing about in this context. They meditate very nicely on Krishna, Krishna Lila, Krishna Katha. They are always, and then from their mouths, that kirtan is coming out. So there's basically a sadhu, one who remembers Krishna and one who speaks Krishna's glories. And so Sangha means association with those sorts of people. What is sadhu Sangha? To associate with those who do Anusmriti and do Hari Kirtan. So this is the, so amongst those who do that, there are gradation also. Kanishta Adhikar, Sadhu Sangha, you can say, Madhyama, Bhagavat Sadhu Sangha, Maha Bhagavat Sadhu Sangha. There are different levels of sadhus. Sadhus means who think themselves as Krishna's devotees, they're remembering Krishna, and they do Krishna Katha. And amongst those types, there are degrees. So the higher the degree of Sadhu Sangha, the more powerful nectarian such Sangha is. Like Kapila Deva says, Satam Prasangam Mabirya Samvido, Bhavantire Karna Rasa Ayanakata. That if we do intimate Sadhu Sangha, Satam Prasangam, Mama Virya Samvido, they're always doing the Katha of Krishna. Then he says that will act like a balm or rasayana, and Ayurveda, rasayana like a medicine to the heart and to the ears. So this is for a high level sadhu sangha. Sri Vishwanath comments in his commentary, a little discouraging. He says if you only do regular sangha, there will only be bhajan kriya. But if you do prasangam, intimate sangha, then only there will be anarshana vritti. They're speaking nice harikatha, so powerful, so potent, and very pleasing to the ear and heart. And then your anarthas will go. So that is sadhu sangha. That is nice sadhu sangha. In the association, the anarthas go. Yeah, what is the last point? You go and see for yourself. 325.25, Sri Vishwanath's commentary. So he says there, he's trying to qualify the word prasangam. It's not just sangam, but prasanga. So it's like, what is this prasanga? Don't just do sangha, there should be prasanga. So he's trying to qualify what is this prasanga. So he says this prasanga means devotees who, they're basically embodying the internal energy. So their minds and their kirtaners all very, they're absorbed in the internal energy. So he says when they do katha, then there will be a narshana vritti. By the pleasing nature of the Hari Katha coming from their mouth, there will be a narshana vritti. Oh, this Hari Katha is so nice that you'll become so attracted to Krishna, your nartis will go. He says, but if you only do regular sangha, then he said there will only be bhajan kriya. There will not be any narshana vritti. So this is a very interesting statement. Like I said, it's a little discouraging, but also interesting. And I'm just quoting this to say that there are different degrees of sangha. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the point that I'm making. So at least there should be bhajan kriya. A lot of devotees not doing that also. I live in New York, and not all devotees practice bhajan kriya also. So at least we want bhajan kriya. So some sangha should be there by which at least bhajan kriya will go on. But when you do special, when it's very potent sangha, then he said there will also be a narshana vritti just by their sangha. And that's also what we're hearing about here in this manashiksha, right? The desire for pratishta and kutinati and kapata, all this will be extinguished in a powerful association of sadhus. So I mean, a high level sadhu, Maha Bhagavat or Madhyam Bhagavat even, they do nice sangha. They have a lot of internal energy there, can force out those anarthas. At least if you do regular sangha, then there will be only bhajan kriya. That is also good. At least there should be bhajan kriya. But that is not, it won't be satisfying to the heart though. That's the issue with that. That Atma Suprasiditi won't come unless you get higher level sangha. But at least there should be bhajan kriya. At least that will help maintain the container. So if you are fortunate enough to get deeper sangha, then they can pour in something in that thing which has been maintained, the container which has been maintained. This doesn't mean we should immediately go and look at everyone around us like, you're not sadhu sangha, I don't know about you, and find fault with our company as such. But this is also a fact that Atma Suprasiditi won't come until we get some special thing. So That's the answer I'm going to give for now. Otherwise, it's actually a big subject matter, honestly. It's a huge, I'm trying to work on something on it now for Bhakti Center. So it's a big topic, in fact. How to identify sadhus who are extraordinary? What's the difference between stage speakers and deeper sangha? And so much can be said about that. I just said your last thing, stage speakers and deeper sangha. My sensibility about it is that deeper sangha will happen in more intimate company. I think even if someone is very deep, they would have to be extraordinarily powerful, like Lord Chaitanya, where just by glancing at you, you get the prema or something. But unless someone's extraordinarily deep, then deeper sangha happens in more intimate association. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached to Rupa Goswami, one person. Then he preached to Sanatana Goswami, one person. Ramananda Samvad, one person. In the Bhagavatam, Uddhava and Krishna, Uddhava and Vidura, Maitreya and Vidura, Shukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj, there were thousands of sages around, but actually the conversation was between them only. Very rare you'll have like a Rishabh Dev on his sons, 100. But they were all his sons, so they all have a relationship with him also. So even then, impact will be intense. So deeper sangha happens in more intimate setting. That's my intuition about it. I know we give other explanation because we tend to have to, I feel like we tend to have to, we feel that we are obligated to give an explanation that will be congruent with what we see today. So we see like one person speaking to thousands of people. So we feel that we have to give an explanation that is congruent with what we're actually experiencing. But my intuition and my real lived experience tells me that deeper sangha means intimate sangha. You know, it's going to be small. That's just the way that cookie crumbles. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that. How to identify sadhus who are extraordinary? Yeah, you have to get their mercy. You can read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Sandarbha. There's so many symptoms there, but how we will know is very hard. So in this regard, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta has told the story of the king who wanted to see the sun at night. So you know this story. The king wanted to see the sun at night. So he had some ministers that were trying for it. Someone, by candlelit light, he put all over the city. Must look very beautiful, but the sun could not be seen in that way. Then some other minister tried some scientific method that also didn't work. So finally, the third minister said, you have some foolish ministers. You're not able to see the sun at night. Only when the sun rises, you can see the sun by the own power of the sun. The sunshine which illumines the eye and allows you to see it, not otherwise. So just as we cannot see the sun at night, Srila Bhakti comments there that we cannot see sadhu or Krishna, but he says we cannot see a sadhu unless that sadhu gives us mercy. Then it's not possible. So it seems that identification of sadhu, this thing is required. And Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur retells the story of Bhrigu Muni, who was looking for who is the supreme deity amongst Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, right? So he went to, was it Brahma first? And he gave a verbal rejection. Don't touch me. Brahma became upset, was about to kill him. He was stopped by Saraswati. Then he went to Shiva. No. With Brahma, it was a mental thing only. He just made some facial expression and Brahma got offended. Was about to kill him. Saraswati had to stop. Then he went to see Shiva. Shiva was about to embrace him. So he said, don't touch me. You're dirty. You got all the dust on you. Don't touch me. So Shiva became upset. He was about to kill him. And then he went to Vishnu, Narayana, and he kicked Narayana in the chest. And Narayana was like, oh, is your foot okay? I'm so sorry. I did not greet you properly. So in this way, he could understand that Vishnu was supreme. You know this story. It comes in 10th canto. But Vrindavan Das Thakur is an interesting retelling. After telling the story, he wants to say, why did Bhrigu Muni, he is a bhakt of the Lord, why he kicked the Lord? And also Shiva, and also Brahman, they're also great devotees of the Lord. So why they become angry by such a small transgression? They became so angry. This is not congruent with the character of a devotee. So Vrindavan Das Thakur said, actually, these are all great sadhus. They're all Uttam Bhagavats, he said. But in order to bring glory to their Lord, both Shiva and Brahma became disturbed by the tiniest transgression to bring glory to their Lord, Krishna. And Bhrigu Muni also was an Uttama Bhagavat, he comments there. But in order to, so it didn't go on to say that he was inspired by the Lord to kick him. And so he kicked the Lord, and that way that brought out the glory of Sri Narayana. So he goes on to comment that if we, you have to read, this is in the 9th chapter of the Anchakanda, Chaitanya Bhagavat, toward the end of the chapter. He says, if we don't know about the greatness of the devotee, and we're like in a dilemma, is he good? Is he Uttama Bhagavat or not? You know, is he, where is he at? You're in that dilemma. He said, if you choose incorrectly, you will be destroyed. So he says, better to become humble with all. And then when Krishna gives Divya Buddhi insight, gives divine inspiration insight, then you'll be able to tell who is a proper devotee. And then you could take his Sangha. I don't remember all the details. I should go and learn that section properly. This is in the Ajahkanda Chaitanya Bhagavat. It's a very nice retelling of the story. So in this way, in all cases, it seems that we're not in an easy position to see. Also because we're not the seer, as we are told. The devotees are the seers and we are the seen. So just as a computer cannot see me because it doesn't have consciousness. So I cannot see a devotee because I don't have consciousness. I don't have consciousness in relationship to that reality. And so I will not be able to see them. They have to see me, and if they show kindness to me, then I can get to understand. Otherwise, not. Of course, we don't want to be cheated. So the Shastra gives so many symptoms by which we might guess or intuit such a devotee's greatness. But at the end of the day, getting Sangha like that is definitely an act of grace on the part of that higher realm. So we can only pray for it, sing about it and pray for it. And then if it comes in life, then we are very fortunate. Then hopefully we won't squander it also if such an opportunity comes. Anyway, such topics.
This is very riveting to think about it, that how, you know, somehow I have this idea that I have found the sadhus, but now hearing from you, it makes me think that, you know, not yet, you know, it's like back to square one.
I know. I'm sorry. I've been thinking about this a lot the last week or so. And then I was reading about it the other day in the park for a few hours and meditating on it. And it was like, definitely we have found sadhu. So we cannot say that we have not found. That would be an operatic if we thought like that also. At the same time, have I taken sadhu sangha? How deeply? That we may question also. And have I really learned from sadhu sangha? That we may question also. That is a fair question. And just because we are fortunate doesn't mean there aren't degrees of fortune also. Fortunate and more fortunate and most fortunate. So if you become any type of devotee, that means you must have got sadhu sangha, so you are fortunate. That cannot be denied. But above that, there might be more fortunate and most fortunate. So that I may not be. I may not be more fortunate or most fortunate. And perhaps getting the attainment of life, sadhu prema, as we're hearing today's verses on, that most fortunate position, that comes by a certain level of sadhu sangha, done intimately or deeply. So we are only fortunate, but now we may have to become more fortunate, most fortunate. If we want that Atma superseded, if we really want the satisfaction part, then it may take more. On our part, at least, it may take a lot more. So yeah, in that sense, this sort of question is humbling. Have I even done sadhu sangha? Have I really even met the sadhu? Even I have my guru and I accept his sadhu, but have I really met him also? So have I really taken his mercy also? So yeah, back to square one. But this is back to square one with something extra. So we were reading Padmanabha Swami's book, and the introduction is my favorite part of the book. That was the only part of the book that I like the most, actually, is the introduction. rest of the book was okay because I already had my convictions on the topic and the clarity. That was just giving more pramana for me. But the introduction was so beautiful. And he speaks in there about a second naive. So when you come to a Krishna consciousness, you're very naive in the beginning. So you're able to take everything because you're just, you don't know anything. You're very naive. I thought all the devotees were pure devotees. I thought all devotees spoke Sanskrit. When I heard them recite the verse in class, I was like, yeah, all these guys know Sanskrit. And it was like beautiful to be so naive. You were just like so receptive. It was beautiful. But then after a while, you get a little jaded. You've been mistreated. Your trust has been broken, this, that, and the other. You become a little jaded. And so you move to the other side of cynical. You go from naive to cynical. And in cynical, you can't be receptive at all. And so then there's like an in-between spot where it might be like a second naive, where you feel that you're back at square one, but it's square one with something extra now. Now you realize, oh, sadhu sangha actually means this thing. So now I may be back at square one, but kind of like with a second naive that may allow us to be more deeply receptive to our opportunities when they come upon us. And in that way, we may become more fortunate or most fortunate. But it requires a certain level of receptivity. I've also just been appreciating how God has arranged my, you can say, Krishna conscious life in congruence with my level of receptivity at a particular time in my life. I can kind of see now, just reflecting on it in my life, that even if I got certain sangha at a particular time, I probably wouldn't have been that receptive to it. And so I was disallowed from that level of company or that level of intimacy, even when I got such company, because I just wouldn't have been receptive to it. So in this way, I keep myself encouraged and not too despondent. And let me discover, I'm back at square one, but with something extra that will allow for maybe something beautiful to be received, so I can become more fortunate and most fortunate. That's why I want to say like this. So it's not all discouragement. Otherwise, we are lost. Okay, that's it. I don't know if Mukunda, if you still want to say something, you may have to skedaddle because I know you guys have practical lives.
It's okay, Prabhu. Maybe I can bring it up tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you.
So many disciples of Prabhupada, good and great association, but aren't in the movement after Prabhupada left. So it's more about how we taking this as you said. We also see the devotees get to serve the spiritual master day in and day out, but we'll leave it at that. But we have our doubts. Yeah, so to take sadhu sangha, what does it mean? So these things we have to reflect on for ourselves. And become sober. Okay, so we'll stop here. Hari Om Tat Sat, Shri Mana Shiksha Ki Jaya, Shri Ranganath Das Goswami Ki Jaya, Shri Go Premanandi, Thakur Bhakti Vinod Ki Jaya, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jaya, Go Premanandi, Hari Bolo, Hari Bolo.